Welcome everybody to this recording of a conversation. My name is Josh Wills. I am teaching a class on Sphere in a few weeks called Data Engineering for Machine Learning, which is based largely on my experiences at working as Director of Data Engineering at Slack, Director of Data Science at Cloudera, and as a software engineer and tech lead at Google way back in the day. So I felt like at Slack, maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, we tried out every stream processing system there was, so like our data warehouse, we ran like Netflix style. So lots of Hive, lots of Spark, lots of Presto. And then we ran Kafka. We obviously ran a big like Kafka 0.8.2, big Kafka cluster we ran ourselves. And then we tried out Samza. We used Samza for a little while for some stuff. And then we tried out Spark streaming. We tried it for a little while for some stuff. We tried out Flink. We tried it for a little while for some stuff. But it was always like such a pain to kind of run these things. And it was always like, it just didn't feel like the operational burden was worth what we were getting for like, as in terms of functionality and stuff like that. I was kind of like, well, this is kind of helpful, but running it sort of sucks. And like, so I guess like my vibe now from, senior engineer friends at like, the DoorDashes and Launch Darkleys, all these companies is like, lots of folks have adopted Flink. Like Flink is kind of one. Spark streaming is maybe coming out with a new thing in a few weeks. They keep teasing it, the good, great Databricks marketing kind of stuff, right? And so I guess like what happened, man? Like what has happened in like since 2017, 2018 when I was last paying attention to this stuff, and now for Flink, for streaming stuff in general? What happened?
Yeah, I mean, all of these frameworks are bare, and probably Spark has some of the maybe the nicest developer experience, but, with all the love in the world to the team at Databricks, I don't know that that's saying very much. It's still pretty rough out there.
Rough, yeah.
I think a couple of things. So one, I think the use cases are catching up to the technology in some ways, like, especially in the day and age of COVID, like the notion that you can track where your food is and like it's being delivered and like you can watch the little car get closer,
totally.
Or amazing. You can do contact tracing. I know you did some work on this with COVID and like those kinds of things. Those things actually have value that sort of force people over the hump. Which in turn creates a forcing function for the tools and the infrastructure to get better. And like, thank God, because it's rough out there. And I have a horse in this race, like to be sure, but like, my sense is that Flink and Spark and all of these things are actually, they're very powerful systems, but they're more frameworks than they are products. Right. And so like, there really needs to be someone who kind of comes along and, certainly we think it's us, but like, I think that companies now are starting to come along because the use cases have caught up, the market gets big enough, and then people come along and they go, oh, it turns out that we need to make this accessible to as many people as we want. The issue with these systems today is not that they can't process data fast enough or that they get state management wrong. I mean, some still do, but whatever. I mean, there's like lots of those kinds of things. The issue now is developer experience and user experience. And so like our take is if we can make streaming accessible to the people who already know Snowflake or Redshift or BigQuery, and let like data scientists self-serve and like all these other kinds of things, or data engineers self-serve on streaming infrastructure, that actually sort of catapults all the stuff forward. So I think that that's what you're seeing is just like the use cases catch up, and then that creates a forcing function for people like me to go, raise some money and invest, in sort of making that stuff better and make. I think it's as simple as that.
Usually it's just like the classic flywheel here, basically, of like person who has to overcome nasty use case, needs the system. They're like, oh my God, this is terrible. Make it a little bit better and rinse, repeat, basically. Okay.
Yeah. And we sort of just like struggle with every iteration, right? To like make it a little bit better for folks.
It's so true. And the funny thing is, not for nothing, it's like, we also are, as humans, are sort of like categorically terrible at like comprehending how quickly these things can happen, when it's so slow day to day. But over the course of 10 years, like my favorite, so I work in climate tech right now, right? And so my favorite factoid by far is the drop in photovoltaic solar cells over the last decade, right? Which is like 95% or whatever. And it's the joke is like it got so much cheaper, so much faster than anyone anticipated. Even people who knew it was going to get fast and cheap really quick, like underestimated it, right?
It's the forcing function, right? Like as soon as it really needs to get commoditized,
yes,
it gets commoditized.
Just gets commoditized. And it turns out we as humans are like shockingly good at this stuff, right?
Yeah.